Turkey urges US to resolve Iran disputes one by one, says Iran ready for nuclear talks. Rubio to warn Venezuela leader of Maduro's fate, if defiant. A year into Trump presidency, pivot to China gathers pace. India says 2 Nipah virus cases but situation contained. South Korea's ex-First Lady jailed for 20 months for corruption. A South Korean court has sentenced former First Lady Kim Kyon-hee to 20 months in prison after finding her guilty of corruption, while acquitting her of stock manipulation and other charges. The ruling was delivered on Wednesday by Judge Woo In-sung at the Seoul Central District Court. Kim, 53, was convicted of accepting bribes, including luxury items worth more than $200,000, allegedly linked to figures connected to the Unification Church. Kim has faced years of controversy over allegations of corruption, influence peddling and misconduct, which overshadowed the presidency of her husband, former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Both are now in custody. Yoon is detained over his declaration of martial law in December 2024, while Kim faces multiple corruption-related charges. Prosecutors accused Kim of abusing power and colluding with the Unification Church, saying her actions undermined South Korea's institutions and the constitutional separation of religion and state. However, the court cleared her of stock manipulation and campaign finance violations. Washington U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee Wednesday that the Trump administration may take further military action against Venezuela if its interim leadership does not adhere to U.S. objectives. In prepared testimony, Rubio said acting President Delcy Rodriguez, who assumed office after Venezuela's Supreme Court installed her following the capture of former President Nicolas Maduro by U.S. forces on January 3, is well aware of the fate of Maduro, and that Washington expects her cooperation on key issues. Rubio reiterated that the United States is prepared to use force to ensure maximum cooperation if other methods fail, though he and administration officials have stressed there is currently no formal state of war or long-term occupation. The hearing comes amid continuing debate in Congress over the administration's authority to conduct military operations without explicit approval, and over the future direction of U.S.-Venezuela relations. Rubio defended the January operation to oust Maduro, and said the U.S. hopes to normalize diplomatic ties while encouraging Venezuela to align with U.S. priorities, including in its oil sector. China has posted a record trade surplus despite concerns that U.S. President Donald Trump's America First policies would further slow its economy, as Beijing strengthened trade ties with countries outside the United States. Analysts say strained U.S. relations with traditional allies have created opportunities for China to position itself as a stable and reliable trading partner. As a result, China's trade surplus reached a record $1.2 trillion in 2025, while monthly foreign exchange inflows hit an all-time high of $100 billion. Global use of China's currency, the yuan, has also continued to expand. Beijing has focused on rebuilding and deepening ties with key partners, including Canada and India. This diplomatic push comes as British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrives in China on Wednesday for a 4-day visit aimed at reviving business relations. It will be the first visit by a British Prime Minister since 2018. Starmer's trip follows a recent visit by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, the first by a Canadian leader since 2017. During that visit, Canada and China signed an economic agreement to reduce trade barriers and develop a new strategic relationship. Carney described China as a predictable and reliable partner. Indian authorities say they have successfully contained a Nipah virus outbreak after confirming 2 cases in the eastern state of West Bengal. The health ministry said enhanced surveillance, laboratory testing and field investigations were carried out, allowing for what it described as timely containment. A total of 196 people who came into contact with the patients were traced and tested, with all results returning negative. Officials said the situation remains under constant monitoring and that all necessary public health measures are in place. Nipah is a highly deadly virus that spreads from animals to humans and has no vaccine. According to the World Health Organization, it has a fatality rate of between 40 and 75%. The virus was first identified in 1998 among pig farmers in Malaysia. India reported its first Nipah outbreak in West Bengal in 2001. More recently, outbreaks in the southern state of Kerala killed at least 17 people in 2018 and 2 others in 2023. Symptoms of Nipah include high fever, vomiting and respiratory illness, with severe cases leading to seizures, brain inflammation and coma. A South Korean court has sentenced former First Lady Kim Keon-hee to 20 months in prison after finding her guilty of corruption, while acquitting her of stock manipulation and other charges. The ruling was delivered on Wednesday by Judge Woo In-sung at the Seoul Central District Court. Kim, 53, was convicted of accepting bribes worth more than $200,000, including luxury items allegedly received from figures linked to the Unification Church. Kim has long been a controversial figure, with allegations of corruption and influence peddling overshadowing the presidency of her husband, former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Both are currently in custody. Yoon is being held over his declaration of martial law in December 2024 and its aftermath, while Kim was investigated over bribery and other allegations. Prosecutors said Kim abused her position and undermined South Korea's institutions and the constitutional separation of religion and state. However, the court cleared her of stock manipulation and campaign finance violations. Kim attended the sentencing wearing a black suit, white face mask and glasses. She has denied the charges, calling them unjust, but has previously apologized for causing public controversy and acknowledged making mistakes in her role as First Lady.